morning and welcome to the Monday morning edition of Sidelines. It is August 8th already. Rob Brown along with Jimmy Hodge. Going to be joined by a great lineup today. We're going to be talking football with you. College football, that is, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, 9 to 11 a.m. east of the Chattahoochee. Remember, if you don't hear us live, always go to 680thefan.com. The Podcast Park in Atlanta. We're on their platform. You can hear us there, and on Kicks 96 FM, Country FM, Alexander City in Central Alabama on Saturdays. We're looking to grow this to where we're on radio everywhere, every day. It ain't what we want to do. It's what we're going to do. We're going to make this show the best it can possibly be, and it starts with having great guests like Jordan Hill, who covers the Georgia Bulldogs. You know, hunker down, you dogs. My God, a freshman, those tires, Walker. Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, is going to be on with us. Section 2, Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report, the man who hosts the largest tailgate in Knoxville, 250-plus people at every Vol game, regardless of opponent. Top of hour number 2, we'll be joined by Brad Logan of the Logan Media Network, covering Ole Miss in the SEC West. Section 4, in the fourth segment, we'll be joined by Roman Harper, a native of Prattville, Alabama. Of course, you all know him on the SEC Network. But before he got there, he played for the Crimson Tide, also for the New Orleans Saints and the Carolina Panthers in the NFL. I like to call him the Truthbroker. He and Takeo Spikes, when they're on the set, everybody kind of move over. Aristotle and Socrates are talking. You need to listen. So anyway, we're with you every Monday through Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern. Follow us on Twitter at Sidelines_live. And we're broadcasting today from the Red River Ford Toyota Studios in Wynne, Arkansas. They're open every Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Trade-in values, the best in 20-plus years. We're not going to be able to say that forever. But remember, get over here. If you're looking for a trade-in, check them out on the web, redriverfordtoyota.com, and they will deliver anywhere. All right, college football. Everybody has started practice, and the defending national champion, Georgia Bulldogs. Kirby Smart's right. The only easy day was yesterday. Jordan, you've been to some practices, or in today's world, you've seen them stretch for 15 or 20 minutes, but you are a damn good reporter. I was really impressed by watching you at SEC Media Days. So glad that you've joined us. Kind of give us the takeaways from the early part of the actual practices over in Athens.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rob. It's been really interesting. We've gotten to see, little segments, 15 minutes on Thursday and then 10 minutes on Sunday. And the one thing that I was struck by the very first day was how much you were hearing Coach Smart. You could tell that everybody wasn't quite up to his standards in that first day of camp, which is nothing unusual. You understand, especially with so many freshmen going through their first fall camp. That he's got high expectations, and something that's talked about a lot around the program is how high standards are. The standard is the standard, and they want guys practice in a certain way. And people around the program have really come to know that Kirby's got a megaphone that he's letting people know. If you hear your name called, usually it's not going to be the most pleasant thing. Yeah. But I was struck, just between Thursday and Sunday, it seemed like Kirby was a little bit more reserved on Sunday as far as I think the players are starting to come in, understanding what they're expected to do and understanding that the task is going to be hard. I mean, it's, mid-90s, maybe low 90s out there when these guys are practicing, going through the heat. But, I think that they've really hit the ground running. I think that this group coming back, There are several guys that obviously contributed, but this team lost a whole lot from that title team. And, it's something Kirby talked about at media days was that, there wasn't any laurels for these guys to rest on because a lot of these guys weren't playing as bigger roles. I think what he's seen and what the coaches have seen early on, again, I think we're 4 practices in of 25 for fall camp, is that the guys are showing up ready to work. It's just a matter of those guys continuing to do that going forward and just knowing, like you said a few minutes ago, just seeing what the date is already, August 8th. Before we turn around, it's going to be September 3rd, and Georgia's going to be taking on Oregon and Atlanta.
Yeah, and we all know that when Georgia plays at Mercedes-Benz Stadium or Alabama or Auburn, it's a de facto home game, and it should be. But Oregon will bring their fans, and you can fly to the Atlanta airport, get on the MARTA, you're right there, and it'll be a great atmosphere. But the thing that impresses me the most about Kirby Smart and this staff is they're hungry. I mean, they celebrated the national championship, and it was great, but you can see success as a burden, and some people aren't willing to carry it. I think he relishes it. I mean, his time at Alabama with Nick Saban, 4 national championships, that's what you need to go back and look at, and how he was instrumental in creating that success along with Nick Saban and great players. You look at this Georgia team, Stetson Bennett the fourth. I thought was maybe the best story in college football last year. South Georgia boy from Blackshear, was told, man, maybe you ought to go do something else. I mean, you're just not going to play here. And no meant tell me more. And he proved everybody wrong. Yet, look, there are people always going, well, we've got other quarterbacks in the quarterback room. We got to keep them happy. Well, look, he's your quarterback. He's your leader. And I'm thinking, Jordan, if I'm a Georgia football player, he's my leader until he's hurt and he can't play anymore. And I think Georgia people need to be grateful that he did want to come back. I still don't understand, though, by the way, where's the deal with Stetson Western wear, hats and, shirts and all the great stuff they have, because he, again, is what we love about college football. This guy, who knows? He may play pro football. Maybe he gets a tryout. But the guy loves Georgia. He loves the red and black and the silver breeches. And that will endear him to the Georgia faithful for the next 300 years.
Yeah, I mean, with Stetson, I think you hit on one thing that, people are kind of missing the boat on getting him a bolo tie or a 10-gallon hat deal with Stetson. But yeah, I mean, the thing I've learned just in covering college football, and it's just natural, is there's always going to be nobody more popular than the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
The backup quarterback solves all your problems all the time. And yes. We know how well that generally works out. But I think it's kind of two-pronged in that. With Stetson, that he didn't have the recruiting buzz. I mean, this guy wasn't ever considered a big-time recruit, even after he came and walked on at Georgia and then left, went to Jones College, community college for a year. I mean, it really looked like he was going to go to UL Lafayette, which would have been a very good opportunity with Billy Napier at the time. But obviously that's not along the lines of, a Trevor Lawrence or, a 5-star quarterback. That's just a very different story. So I think that's the situation. But, I think that Stetson, from all accounts, everything I've seen, handles it well. I think he just takes it in stride. I think he's used to it at this point of being counted out. I mean, this is something Kirby has talked about a good bit. This time in fall camp last year, he was taking third-team reps. I mean, he went to Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator, and was like, look, I need more work. I need more reps. And then you turn around and, he works his way up, and JT Daniels gets hurt, and he kind of gets thrust in there. And then, the history is, everything after that is history as far as what he was able to do. But, yeah, I think it's kind of a two-pronged thing as far as the perceived disrespect, or, I think it might be more fair to say, overlooking him as far as when you talk about the best quarterbacks in the SEC, the fact that he never had any kind of recruiting buzz. Again, this is a guy who wore a USPS hat to, camps just so he stood out. I mean, just to make him stand out from all these other guys. I think it's that, and then just the natural way fans look at quarterback and thinking that the guy that's sitting on the bench waiting for his chance is going to be better than the guy that's actually out there.
I'll tell you what, Jordan, I don't know how long you've been covering Georgia, but I'll just say this. You get it. That is great analysis. Jimmy Hodge, I know you got a question or two for Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports, covering the Georgia Bulldogs. Have you ever heard this term, by the way, Jordan? You're a DGD?
Oh yeah. I've heard it quite a bit. Not usually directed toward me, but I'll take it for sure.
Yeah, Lawrence Smith. When Lawrence Smith says it to you, it's like, wow, I love it. But anyway, Jimmy, jump in.
Yeah, looking at this schedule, I tell you what, there's got to be some excitement around the Georgia nation there, because they're kind of well known for worrying about a lot of things, but I'm telling you what, getting Oregon with, Dan Lanning as his first head coaching appearance there, getting them in Mercedes-Benz, that's a really good opener because, you're playing a program that's had a lot of success in the Pac-12, but yet, you've got players that are learning new schemes, obviously, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, and playing a really smash mouth type offensive team like Georgia. I think it's going to be a really a tough matchup for them, but it is, a marquee game from a brand standpoint because of Oregon's success. But I really look for Georgia to really take care of business there. And then after that, I mean, that's about as sweet of a schedule as I've ever seen for a defending SEC champion. And lots of times that can be sometimes fool's gold, and the coaching staff, do you see them maybe being concerned about the danger of overlooking somebody like South Carolina playing a 12 noon game in Columbia where it's going to be 100 degrees? And the Gamecocks have given the Dogs some problems in past years, but I just don't see a game on there where they're going to be an underdog or even close to it. Do you think the coaching staff, faces a harder task than people think, in getting this team prepared every week, especially replacing so many starters on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, I think, in terms of the schedule, I think they're cognizant of, the perception that they're unbeatable or that they will just kind of waltz through the conference. And I think it kind of goes back to a point I talked about a little bit earlier about guys stepping into new roles. I think that's going to kind of help Kirby. And Kirby's talked about that he would have a little bit more concern about players, resting on their laurels or, feeling like they can just show up. If they have more returning starters, if they have more of, say, that, otherworldly defense coming back, he might have more concern about guys thinking they can kind of just ease through fall camp and then get into the season and, we beat South Carolina before, we've beaten Tennessee, we've beaten, all these teams, we can just do it again. I think that in a way it kind of helps them that there's going to be guys playing a whole lot more than they did, say, when they played South Carolina last year, when they beat Tennessee last year. They've got guys that, they might have played on special teams. They might have got in second half in some of those games where things were a little bit out of hand, but, they weren't out there for those first snaps, those first offensive series, those first defensive series. I think in that way it helps them that there are guys that are going to be going through new experiences. Now, is it going to be, picture perfect and all these guys that are making their first career starts? Well, no. I mean, that's just not natural. And that's something that Kirby's talked about too, that he said, there will be growing pains and, there might be times where a guy messes up because this is his first time in that situation. And, that's just kind of part of it. I think this team on both sides of the ball is still going to be really, really talented. And to your point too, Jimmy, I mean, I think looking at the schedule, I think they can go undefeated in the regular season. Really, to me, kind of depends on how they close November because November's got some really tough games. But I think, again, the big thing to me is the fact that I don't think there's a sense of feeling like things are just set up where everything will go perfect because there's going to be growing pains on both sides of the ball. It's just a matter of that not allowing it to get in the way of Georgia winning another game and maybe go into this season with another chance at 12-0 in the regular season.
Hey, Jordan, look, when we get back, I've got a question from one of our listeners, one of our viewers, big dog fan. Give a shout out to Jeff Boone, friend of mine. Grew up over in Atlanta and been a Georgia fan. His brother had a bar in Athens for a while. You can imagine what that was like. Fun. He has a question, and I want you to address it after we come back from the break. And that is, talk about the battles going on for the top spot in the running back room, and also where you see Brock Bowers role going forward? Is he kind of the Evan Ingram of this decade, a former Ole Miss hybrid player who was a wide receiver, tight end type? Because he seems like he can do it all. So if you'll address those, about Brock Bowers in the running back room when we come back, Jeff Boone will be a happy man, and we'll be with you, folks, until 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. east of the Chattahoochee. Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports on the Georgia Bulldogs, is with Jimmy and me. We're going to have fun after this quick break.
Kitchens and bathrooms make a home, and the design teams at Kitchens Unlimited know how to make kitchens and baths. They know it all because they have seen it all. Kitchens Unlimited has been designing and remodeling the Mid-South's kitchens and baths for over 50 years. Check out their showroom at 3550 Summer Avenue or visit them on the web at kitchensunlimited.net.
If you have a crash, dent or ding, go to G.E. Patterson and BBG for Tom Martin's Body Shop.
Come on down to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, located on Historical Square in Collierville, Tennessee. Hewlett & Dunn is the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, stocked with Southern brands you know and trust. And a new inventory arriving all the time. Do yourself or someone you know and love a favor and visit this store. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
As an agricultural producer, no matter where you farm, minimum tillage is a primary concern each and every season. At House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, we manufacture equipment to help you maximize efficiency when planting and watering a crop. Pieces like the pulverizer, bedder roller, 3-bar do-all, and bed conditioner assist you in optimizing seedbed preparation and ultimately your bottom line. Visit HouseIndustriesInc.com to locate the dealer nearest you.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Jordan Hill, the running back room at Georgia, the depth, talked about that, and Brock Bowers' role in the 22 season, because what he did in 21 was nothing short of amazing.
Yeah, starting with the running backs. I mean, I think it's pretty clear-cut that it's going to be Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton leading the way. Those two guys are the most experienced guys in the room. They're guys that have made plays in the past. And kind of give the nod right now to Kenny McIntosh. I think he's got a very good opportunity to be sort of that top running back, but I think both those guys are going to get a lot of carries. And Kenny's got a very good opportunity as far as he's a very good pass catcher. And I think that Todd Monken's going to use that to Georgia's advantage. I think they're going to put those guys in situations to be able to use Kenny in the passing game and allow him to make plays, which he's done, albeit in a limited role behind guys like Zamir White and James Cook in the past. Yeah. But the thing to really watch is two of the freshmen coming in. Branson Robinson's a guy that, is just jacked coming in as a true freshman. And then they got another guy that got a lot of buzz right before February when he signed, Andrew Paul. So those guys are going through, they were summer enrollees, so they're kind of getting caught up and learning. And obviously they got to learn all the facets of being a running back to be counted on, obviously pass pro and things like that. Mm-hmm. But those guys are talented, and I'll be interested just to see as the season goes along how they kind of factor into Georgia's plan. But again, I think it's McIntosh and Milton kind of leading the way. Now with tight end, I think that they're really going to try to use Brock Bowers like they did last year. He was a guy that true freshman season, and he sets the Georgia record for receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns by a tight end. He just had an incredible freshman year. And, he wound up missing the spring due to a labrum surgery, but he's back. He's not limited at all going through fall camp. And I think they're going to expect a good bit of the same or, looking for similar results this year. But the very interesting part about tight end this season is they've got several options. Eric Gilbert, the former LSU standout, has looked really good during the spring, and he's back working and really put a lot of effort in the spring and summer in his conditioning. So he's a guy they think can make a lot of plays. And then, oh, by the way, they've got a guy that was a 5-star, Darnell Washington, who has had moments and has been limited by injury. So they've got no shortage of tight ends, and I wouldn't be surprised that Brock sees several of those other tight ends out there, and we see 2 tight end, heck, maybe even 3 tight end sets from time to time, trying to make the most of what's one of the deepest tight end rooms in the country.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question, and I think your analysis and assessment of what's going on in the running back room is kind of scary too, because those 2 freshmen coming in, most teams in the country, they probably would be starters. That is a sign of the depth in the dog running back room that sends chills up people's spines. Jimmy Hodge?
Well, I wanted to get an idea of where Georgia stood at the wide receiver position, because it's well known that Georgia is, as I said earlier, a smash mouth run oriented team, and their passing game really includes the tight ends a great bit. And we saw Bowers have one of the best seasons we've seen in modern times for a true freshman tight end. I mean, he almost looked like an NFL player already. And now you have, Washington, who in my mind really started to come along late in the year. He caught the touchdown pass in the SEC championship game against Bama. And then he, really showed signs of future stardom in the spring game, just by his sheer size, his athletic ability, and his skill set. And I think as a result, I think that was a big reason Jermaine Burton made the move to Alabama, because in his first 2 seasons, you could see the talent, but I think he only caught 52 passes. And of course, a big reason is because Georgia likes to spread the ball around in their passing game. And he saw an opportunity to maybe duplicate the kind of season Jameson Williams had when he was in a crowded wide receiver room at Ohio State and had, 75, 77 catches on the season. So who do you see filling the void there at wide receiver for the Dogs?
I think the person we've all got our eyes on is Adonai Mitchell, who's just a sophomore, but he made an incredible catch in that national championship game in the fourth quarter. One of the big plays that helped Georgia win the game. He was looked at as wide receiver 1 going into spring, and did a really good job of kind of rising to the occasion with that title. And everything we've heard since then, I mean, appears to be Adonai is the guy, that he is the one that they're being looked at and being considered. I really feel like Brock Bowers will still be the top sort of passing target, but I think Adonai's got an opportunity to have a really big season. And one of the things I'm really intrigued with during fall camp is just figuring out sort of the receiver rotation outside of, really it looks like it's going to be Adonai Mitchell. It's going to be Lab McConkey, a guy who made a lot of plays last year, especially early in the year when they were dealing with injuries at the position with other guys. They really needed people to step up, and to Lad's credit, he did. And then Kyrus Jackson, a guy that's a senior who feels like he's been at Georgia forever at this point. At least it feels that way to me. He's a guy that has made plays. He dealt with surgery before last season, kind of left him limited. I mean, he told us at the end of spring that he felt like basically he hadn't matched his potential, that he still got a ways to really fulfill what he feels like he's capable of doing. He's somebody to watch. And then there's other guys on this team, receiver-wise, that I think have talent, and it's a matter of how they kind of work their way into the situation. Arian Smith is a track guy that has made plays in the past but got hurt last year and is trying to work his way back, has shown flashes, had a 60-yard catch on the very first play for the second-team offense at G-Day. So he's a guy that's looked good. Dominic Blaylock is a guy that in 2019 was kind of a freshman phenom, and then he gets hurt in the SEC title game against LSU and hurt his knee, and then was coming back, and then the following fall camp hurt the same knee. But he looked really, really good in spring this year. He's had no limitations. He's a guy that's made plays before, and I think has an opportunity to do so again. They've got other options, really, to me, behind those three kind of core receivers and Mitchell, McConkey, and Jackson. But it's just a matter of how these guys kind of work through fall camp. Very intrigued to see what that looks like and who's able to kind of carve out roles alongside those other three receivers, because they do have talent in this room. It's just a matter of seeing who kind of rises to the occasion and finds a way to play.
Let me ask you a question about Will Muschamp's role with the team now. I mean, he's obviously great defensive mind, had a couple of runs as a head coach, and didn't have great success. He's got a lot of money, but damn, that guy can get people motivated to play their asses off on Saturdays.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying, what do you see his role going forward with Georgia? I mean, I know he's got a big position, but I think as a recruiter, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think this is a really good opportunity. You know, he always, when he was at Florida and South Carolina, he always liked to kind of take subtle jabs at Georgia, which, I mean, that was alma mater.
yeah.
Kind of having fun with it.
Sure.
But I really do think, all things considered, that this is sort of the perfect situation for Will. You know, there were rumors when Kirby Smart was first hired at Georgia that Will was going to come on as a defensive coordinator. Well, lo and behold, that offseason, he winds up landing the South Carolina job, which really I think was a surprise sort of around the industry that he had an opportunity to be a head coach again, especially not that long removed from how things ended at Florida. But yeah, you know, I think this is a good opportunity for Will. You know, he's going to be the co-defensive coordinator. He's coaching the safeties. I think if you're a Georgia fan, you should be really excited, just with his knowledge of playing in the secondary and the way he's able to coach guys up. The success he's had, not only, you know, developing guys in the defensive backfield, but spotting, recruiting, you know, doing, you know, understanding what they're looking for as far as secondary members. I was thinking about Sunday when we had a chance. We watched about 10 minutes of practice, and watching Will Muschamp coach up Malachi Starks, who was one of the top recruited guys. I think he might have been the top safety in the nation coming out of last year's class. If you're a Georgia fan and you see Will Muschamp coaching up a guy like that with a whole lot of potential, I think you really should be excited. I think it's a good opportunity really for Georgia and also for Will Muschamp, sort of this pairing, to have him coaching the safeties, also being the co-defensive coordinator. I think it should be really promising as far as what this defense can look like, and again, how they'll add to the talent in the secondary going forward.
Hey, look, great stuff. We've run out of time. We'll get you back on again next week if you'll do it. You really, really know Georgia, and I'm excited for Will Muschamp, and he's one of my favorite people in coaching. And you know, sometimes it doesn't work out as a head coach, but God, as a defense, you're right. If he's over there spending time with somebody, that is a great sign for that guy. But it's also, he better be ready to bring his A game every day to practice, because if Will Muschamp sees potential in you, he will get it out of you. Jordan, tell people how they can follow you and all your great work that you do for 24/7 Sports covering the Georgia Bulldogs, the defending national champions.
Yeah, dogs247.com. I'd tell people right now we're running a 50% off sale on a VIP membership. So that ends tonight at midnight. So okay. I'd tell anyone listening who wants to get in on that to jump on it. And then on Twitter at Jordan Davis Hill and also at dogs247. Busy time of year, but like you said, Rob, we're going to be to the opener before you know it. Just looking forward to watching a little bit more fall camp and seeing what these guys are able to do before then.
Well, you gave us a great view into what's going on in the Classic City, and really appreciate your time. Have a great rest of your week.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
You bet. That is Jordan Hill, 24/7 Sports on Georgia. Let's head on up there to the land where it is always sunny and orange. Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report with Mark Hamm up in Knoxville, talking about the Tennessee Volunteers. And Mark, man, it's already August 8th. We're getting really, really close. You think about it, golly, man, we're about 420 hours from the start of college football season. I mean,
Right.
if you're keeping up, if you're an idiot savant, Jimmy and I keep up with stuff like that. But welcome to Sidelines.
Good to be back, and yeah, it's going to be exciting. We're ready to get going up here.
Yeah. Well, Mark, okay, year 2 under Josh Heupel. Look at what he's done. Last year, he opens up with Joe Milton, transfer from Michigan. Started 6 or 7 games up there and kind of petered out. He's from the muck, Lake Okeechobee down in Pahokee, Florida. That's what they call it down there, is the muck. Some of the best football players in America come out of there. You bring in Hendon Hooker, transfer portal guy from Virginia Tech. And Jimmy and I, and you would probably agree, his numbers were fantastic last year. And the thing that jumps out about the offense that Josh Heupel runs is they can run it, they can throw it, but you go back, and I say this, 14-47, that rings, that resonates. That's the time of possession Tennessee had in a night game on the road against a Kentucky team that won 10 games. They won 48-45. A lot of quick drives, but the defense, and Jimmy's talked about this a lot, and so have I, a defensive front, you got to have a surge there. But Tennessee that brand is powerful. And really, when you look at SEC schools historically, they were the first school that really started 40 years ago with Johnny Majors in the late 70s, early 80s to recruit nationally. Now they're doing it again. What are the expectations of the Tennessee fans going into this season?
Well, it used to be we didn't really have that many expectations the last 10 years,
Yeah.
We weren't sure except who the next coach was going to be.
Of course.
But with that said, I think everybody's pretty excited. I mean, we've got a guy that, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. I mean, I wasn't really sure what to expect last year, but he came in and took some guys with very few scholarship players and a lot of guys that have transferred out, and was able to win. And I think it's his style of football and the brand of football. And I think, when you talk to the people that are involved with around him, he inspires a lot of confidence, and he wants the guys to play well. He's kind of a coach's coach. They play volleyball together and, kickball and all kinds of stuff. I think they even do curling together.
There you
But
go.
it's one of those, yeah, but it's one of those things that I think everyone's excited. They're optimistic. We lost some guys, but I really think we're going to be pretty good this year. My daughter, who is going to Georgia this year, I pretty much told her yesterday that we're going to win down in Athens this year. They lost all their defense, so I'm just going to call it right now. We're beating Georgia at Georgia this year.
You just heard it, folks. I love it. Mark just predicts Georgia, Tennessee. Tennessee's going down and winning between the hedges, Audrey. I mean, look, you know what? Why not?
They lost everybody on defense. I know they got all these 5 stars, and everything else, but when you've got a lot of guys that haven't played a lot in the SEC, it's a whole different brand. I mean, of football. I mean, you've got to play. And I'm saying that the guys they haven't played a lot, but
yeah.
They lost a lot on defense. And we got an offense that's going to go down there and put up some points. And I don't think their quarterback's all that great. I mean, if you look at, they basically won a national championship on defense. I mean, he's not bad, but if you can get to him and rattle him a little bit, I don't know. I'm just going to say we're winning in Athens.
Well, you know what you're saying, Mark, is that last year, and I love Stetson Bennett. I'm a huge fan, maybe the best story in college football last year. But this year, he's probably going to be asked on more than one occasion to win a game for Georgia versus having that insurance policy backing him up of the Georgia defense, which was a once-in-a-generation defense that had 5 first-round picks on it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I'm not saying he's not a bad player. I mean, obviously he won a national championship.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not the most talented guy out there. So I'm just saying that with the defense they had, I mean, I think you could have probably played quarterback down there and won a national championship last year. But
sure,
I think they're gonna do well. I mean, obviously they got great players, but I just don't know if he's the guy. I don't know if he's the guy to bring them another national championship this year. Because I think it was their defense, and everybody knows it was their defense that basically won them that national championship.
Well, you know what? We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this Tennessee program, and they're light years away from where they were with, Butch Jones had a couple of 9-win seasons. 3-star Dooley, really didn't like to recruit as much. But we're going to talk about why Tennessee got in that hole and how quickly they're getting out of it after this break with more Sidelines. Mark Hamm, Jimmy Hodge, Rob Brown. Be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at HouseIndustriesInc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Up on Rocky Top, man, things are looking up for sure. But, Mark, you've really chronicled in so many ways that other people just haven't been able to do. How Tennessee slipped. I mean, we know Phil Fulmer won 150-something games, a national championship, couple of SEC titles. But, man, he had Tennessee in the conversation most years for the SEC and the national championship. And then you had the 1 year of Lane Kiffin, and then 3-star Dooley, and then Eddie Munster Jr., Butch Jones up there as the coach. And then you bring in Jeremy Pruitt. And I think people need to be very careful. That guy flat out can coach football. He is a great football coach, and his players will fight to their last breath for him. But something happened up at Tennessee, and I don't know if when you have a legend whose office is right across the hall or right down the hall, it's tough. We don't know what it would have been like at Alabama had Coach Bryant lived another 15 or 20 years for his successors at Alabama. But we do know this: Tennessee is the 9th winningest football program in the history of college football. It is a powerful brand. And from 1936 to 2004, Tennessee only had 7 losing seasons. And they also had the best record in college football in that 70-plus year period. Since then, in the 17 seasons, they've had 8 losing seasons and 9 winning seasons. But things feel right up in Knoxville. I don't know if it's because, they're selling 30 racks of Hamm's beer up there. I don't know what it is, but things feel right up there. And tell us why, because you have the biggest tailgate on the hill. You talk to the people in the know. You are in the know. You are Mark Hamm.
Well, I don't know about that. I just said we're going to beat Georgia, after them winning the national championships. I don't know if I can call everything I need to be knowing. But I will say that people are, again, very optimistic. They're excited. They're just waiting to be unleashed. We have great facilities. They've redone the stadium this year. We've got, so much backing from everything that we do that, we just needed the right coach. And I think we got the right guy right now. He's recruiting well. And we continue to do well with very little. So I think, this year we'll see what happens. I think the expectations now is that we go in and we win every game we go into, which is the way it used to be at Tennessee. But I think, there's some people that are saying, hey, we're going to definitely, we're going to lose some games, but, can we go 8-4 this year? I think we might could. But I think it's just that you got the right people that are involved now, and you've got excitement, and you've got people, he's got the players thinking and believing that they can win.
Yeah. Jimmy, the folks up there in Knoxville. You grew up in Clinton. How do you see it? Like Mark does, or do you see it differently?
Well, I see a 2-deep on both sides of the ball depth chart that includes a lot of experienced players. it seems like everywhere you look, they have a junior or senior, with the exception of 2 or 3 positions on the second string that they have some sophomores. But I think anytime you have that much experience coming back, and you really had a surprising season last year, certainly on the offensive side of the ball, where they broke all those school records, that you've got a senior class, I think, that's really going to be inspired to leave Knoxville with a bang, and be able to say 15, 20 years from now that, we were on the ground floor of turning Tennessee back in the right direction. And anytime you can put points on the board like Tennessee can, they certainly showed it last year, and they have a lot of guys back, but most importantly, their quarterback. They have a chance to beat anybody. But I do think that second game on the road at Pitt is going to be a big game for them, because even though the Panthers lost Kenny Pickett, they got transfer Keaton Slovis from USC, who's a very talented player. And Pat Narduzzi's done a solid job there. So I think the Vols really need to have a solid performance there and be focused, because if you're not ready to play, you can really have a battle on your hands. But then after that, you're looking at a couple of big games in Knoxville at home. You got the Gators coming in, who themselves are just trying to establish an identity under Billy Napier, and that'll be 4 or 5 weeks in. So we'll certainly see how they have progressed, because they will have already played 2 big games, opening against preseason Pac-12 favorite Utah, who played in the Rose Bowl last year, and then LSU, who is another team that's kind of in that Florida category with the new coach Brian Kelly, with a lot of talented players, and it'll certainly be a interesting measuring stick for both these teams when LSU comes to town, because you do know, if nothing else, LSU is going to come to town with a lot of talented players. So I think that early stretch of the season is going to be really big for Tennessee, and if they can, come out of there 5-0, 6-0 with Bama coming to town, you never know what can happen.
Yeah, Mark, along those lines, Jimmy makes some good points. Breaking that streak against Alabama, how big is that? The 15 years prior to Nick Saban coming to Alabama, Tennessee was 10-4-1 versus the Tide. Since then, 0-15. And they've lost 15 of the last 16 to Florida. And again, what's amazing is Tennessee fans still show up. I mean, compared to a lot of schools, they don't think they have been compared to their normal numbers, but I feel this just big ball of orange synergy about to explode on the banks of the Tennessee River, as this crowd of some 100,000 comes rising to their feet. And the giant T will be formed by the Pride of the Southland Band and that swinging gate in the north end zone. And you can feel the anticipation as Mark Hamm replies to this question.
Well, we're gonna beat Alabama 55-10, and
there we go.
If you look at Nick Saban, I think he's the greatest coach of all time. I mean, the guy's just the GOAT. He, it's one of those things. I think he wins the national championship this year. If you look at his history, and I need to go back and look, it seems like he wins one every other year. He's in the he'll win one. They lose everybody, and then they get close, and the next year they win one again. So, and I was reading the other day that one of their offensive guys, or one of their players anyway, was talking about in the, I guess the dining hall where all the players eat.
Yeah,
they've got a trophy in there, but it says it's the runner-up trophy from last year. So he's had a trophy in there from the day after they got beat by Georgia. That's the runner-up trophy. So walk in there every day looking at the runner-up trophy. So, they're going to be really, really talented, and they always are. They bring in new coaches, but I mean, look at his record. If you look at, I think I was looking at something, this was last year, and it's changed a lot since then, about there's been like 45 or 50 different coaches in the SEC since Nick Saban got there, and they were trying to say that that's attributed to how much he has won and dominated. It's like every team has had 2 different coaches, or 3 coaches, something crazy. I mean, it's hard to beat a guy like that. He's a genius. He's got great players. I think they're going to be the ones to beat this year because they got a lot of talent back. And it's, we lose to Bama, that's fine. Well, I think if we can play against them, great, but they're really talented.
I got to mention that that trophy that's strategically positioned in the cafeteria is referred to as the participation trophy.
Oh, there we go.
Even though they went to the national championship game and
Jimmy,
really came close despite having a number of key players missing. But it's not as bad as 2016 after the loss in the final second to Clemson. When they got back to Tuscaloosa, strength and conditioning coach Scott Cochran smashed the runner-up trophy into pieces in front of the entire team. So I think that's going a little bit too far, but it does give you an idea that their expectations are pretty high.
Yeah. Mark, man, elaborate. You think about it. I'm going to throw some numbers at you, Mark. Teams, Nick Saban's record at Alabama in 15 years, 178 wins, 25 losses. Teams with a win versus Alabama. Auburn has the most with 5. LSU second with 4. Clemson, Georgia, Ole Miss, Texas A&M with 2 each. And then with 1 win against Alabama in the 15 years of Nick Saban, Ohio State, Oklahoma, South Carolina, the Florida Gators, the University of Utah, the U of U. I love that. ULM, that was his first year. Mississippi State Bulldogs wrapped this one in maroon and white. The Bulldogs have beaten the Crimson Tide of Alabama. It's a sonic drive of the game, my drive home. And then Florida State, the Seminoles. That's it. In 15 years. So one thing about Tennessee, Mark, really jumps out at me is they believe now. And, you'll interview players. Hey, we know we're going to beat Alabama. We know we're going to beat Georgia. Tennessee's beginning to feel that way. You can't go, I hope we beat Alabama. Hey, hope ain't going to get it done, is it?
Nope.
You walk into a business meeting, Mark, you don't hope you're going to get it. You know you're going to get it, don't you? I know you. You don't take you don't take shit from nobody. No means tell me more, doesn't it?
You just gotta, you can't win them all. Obviously, but yeah, you've got to have that confidence. And I think you can be very confident, not arrogant, but I think you can be confident and just think, hey, we're going to win this. And I think, again, that's that confidence that Josh Heupel's instilled, in all the players. When you see them now, the way they, interact when they're on the field, they're having fun. They never had fun under Jeremy Pruitt. You can just tell there's a whole difference, and it's almost like they've run through walls for Heupel. So that means a lot.
Yeah.
These guys are college players, and just because you have some 3-stars doesn't mean that they're not any good. There's a lot of 3-stars that are in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's just a matter of these kids come in at 18, they grow, they get bigger. They get sometimes faster. They work out. So a lot of these guys, once they put on some weight and get in the weight room and they get coached up real well, can do real well, especially if you work in the right offense. And their offense is so fast. I don't know if somebody was asking me the other day about the Kiffin rule, when they fall down like the dizzy goats, and the dizzy goats, have you seen those guys? They walk in, they fall on the ground.
Well, I've seen the fainting goats at Silky's Tavern down in Memphis.
Yeah, the fainting goats. So the Ole Miss Rebels fainting goats that were here last year. We're hoping that rule has changed, that we don't have the fainting goats, and I don't know, Jimmy, you may know if they've changed that rule this year because, everybody falls down when we're driving the ball, the fainting goats pass out.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think they have, but it's being watched very closely. I think when certain rules are involved, they're on a rule change is made, it's in a 2-year cycle. So unless it's just blatantly obvious that it needs to go, I think it may have happened 1 or 2 times. I know it has in college basketball, where they just eliminated a rule in mid-season, but usually you're stuck with it for 2 seasons. So I think you're going to see some revisions to that fake injury rule.
Yeah, and
because that just absolutely has to go, because it's really an embarrassment to the game, and it completely stops a game and penalizes an offense that's moving the ball, and then you fake an injury, and the training staff takes about a week to get out there to treat the guy, and he takes him another week to get to the sidelines, and then he's back out there in 2 plays.
Yeah.
That's just not a good look for anybody.
Jimmy, and Mark, we have Steve Shaw, the coordinator of NCAA officials, was on with us last week, and we've talked to him a number of times since last season. They're taking a really hard look at it because it hurts the integrity of the game, and it's an embarrassment, and it's what they need to do, Mark, is hold those players out the rest of that series. Man, if they're hurt, or maybe even make them miss the rest of the quarter or the half.
Right.
I mean, that's if you don't have accountability, nothing will happen, Mark. You know that.
Yeah, you got to err on the side of safety. Just keep them out for the rest of the series or the rest of the quarter.
Yeah.
They won't be faking injuries then.
Yeah, Mark.
Exactly. And we know what was going on last year. I mean, but that's our offense. I mean, you were talking about, our time of possession against Kentucky, and we win that game. I mean, we're just a high-powered, high-strike offense, and players. I mean, and the coaches know that. And if they continue to do that this year, then they stop all of our momentum. It's you get a free timeout, and to your point, Jimmy. I mean, it takes forever to get them out there and get them off the field, and they're back in the next play. I mean, it's very frustrating, obviously, watching it, because we've turned it to. Even Nick Saban said it. You've got to win with offense now. Saban used to win on defense. I mean, he said last year or 2 years ago, you got to put up 45 or 50 points to win in the SEC now. And people like offense. They don't like going to watch a baseball game when it's 6-3, final score. They want to see 55-48. And when you have this high-powered offense, I mean, we want to see these guys run. We want to see these guys put up points, but we don't want to see guys laying on the field because they can't keep up or they're winded. I mean, that's on them.
Yeah. Mark, what it really boils down to is you got to be just good enough and slow those people down. Go back to Alabama 6 years ago, what they were averaging on offense. They're averaging now, 6 years later, around 14 points per game more than they used to. And that's a good point, kind of win. Mark, about out of time for this segment. We got to get you back on longer on one of these round tables with us, because you really know football. I think what you really get is the people quotient of it, and that is Josh Heupel. We got about a minute. What is your message as a UT alum, a supporter, and you're connected to a lot of people, to Josh Heupel in year 2? What you want to see?
I think just to continue to expand on what we did last year. I mean, if we can get 2 more wins, that's a win for us. Or 2 wins in the year for a final record. I think people were disappointed with that because, again, you have expectations up here. I think people expect us to go, 10-2 this year, but that just may not be there. I mean, we're still, trying to catch up. And you got to realize, we kind of sanctioned ourselves with those sanctions, and we've been playing with a lot fewer scholarship players. So we've been, self-imposed, sanctions we've had for the last few years. The hope the NCAA doesn't just pound us. So again, I think, he's recruiting well. We're going to have all those kids coming in next year. They're going to be freshmen, obviously. But again, I think if you continue to recruit well, we're going to do pretty well. I think we're going to have a good year. I do. I think we're going to win some games. We're going to lose a couple of games, but if we capitalize and continue to put up, more points and we win more than we did last year, I think that's a win for us. But so much excitement around it. I think it's kind of the point. Everybody expects us to win every game.
Yeah. Well, and it will be. Mark, look, we ran out of time on this one. We're going to get you back on here, but you make great points, and it's hard to argue with what you said. But let's talk about it again next week. We'll be right back with more. Brad Logan joins us at the top of hour number 2.
Kitchens and bathrooms make a home, and the design teams at Kitchens Unlimited know how to make kitchens and baths. They know it all because they have seen it all. Kitchens Unlimited has been designing and remodeling the Mid-South's kitchens and baths for over 50 years. Check out their showroom at 3550 Summer Avenue or visit them on the web at kitchensunlimited.net.
If you have a crash, dent or ding, go to G.E. Patterson and BB for Tom Martin's Body Shop.
Come on down to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, located on Historical Square in Collierville, Tennessee. Hewlett & Dunn is the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, stocked with Southern brands you know and trust. And a new inventory arriving all the time. Do yourself or someone you know and love a favor and visit this store. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
As an agricultural producer, no matter where you farm, minimum tillage is a primary concern each and every season. At House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, we manufacture equipment to help you maximize efficiency when planting and watering a crop. Pieces like the pulverizer, bedder roller, 3-bar do-all, and bed conditioner assist you in optimizing seedbed preparation and ultimately your bottom line. Visit HouseIndustriesInc.com to locate the dealer nearest you.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown back here with you. Hour number 2. Jimmy, great segment there with Mark on Tennessee. And that's why I wanted to ask that question. What are you looking for in year 2 with Josh Heupel? And if anything, it's just to continue that enthusiasm. They're selling a lot of season tickets up in Knoxville. And I think what you want to see if you're Tennessee is the fans, 95, 100,000 plus at every game, regardless of opponent. But years of not meeting expectations with, the cost of tickets and gas and all that stuff, that's always an issue. You go back in the 2008 season, people were worried about gas oil was $147.11 a barrel, predictions of 200. I felt like it would be down below 90 by Christmas. Hell, it got down below 30. It's always darkest before dawn. And everybody's saying the same thing now with the NIL and the portal and all that stuff. I'll tell you what, you're going to see things turn for the better. The game is as exciting and entertaining as it's ever been. And it was a very prophetic statement made by Nick Saban. You got to win with offense now. I mean, you can still have a great defense, and Alabama's going to have one of their better defenses in recent memory this year, I think. But they're going to score so many points. It's still going to put a lot of pressure, especially when you have quick drives. You look at a lot of championship teams, their drives are 2 minutes or less, not these 7-minute, 8-minute drives. Hell, I saw Auburn in 2006, Jimmy, in the South Carolina game on the road in Columbia, have 15 minutes of possession in one quarter. I mean, they kept the ball the entire quarter. And Auburn won. It was a close game, but I'd never seen that before. Keeping the ball for an entire quarter. And it puts tremendous pressure on your defense when a team scores at will, what it seems like at will, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I could imagine if you allowed the opposing offense to keep the ball for a whole quarter, and then the offense capped the drive with the touchdown, and then you get the ball back on the kickoff, and then be able to do what Tennessee was able to do on many occasions last year, throw a 75-yard bomb on the first play of your possession. Your defense has to go back out on the field again,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's like I said, just a different game now. Those long 75-yard, 80-yard, 15-play scoring drives. aren't as devastating anymore because these offensive schemes are just so sophisticated, and you got all these 4 and 5 wide receiver sets, and it puts the defense in a situation. Lots of times they're forced to use man coverage on those speedy wide receivers, and if there's one slight mistake, one defensive back has a lack of focus, I mean, your opponent can negate that long scoring drive in one play. So it's it truly is a situation in which on both sides of the ball, but especially defensively, you got to be laser focused on your assignments and what formations that the offense is in, so you don't subject yourself to mismatches, which can result in long touchdown plays at a moment's notice, really.
Well, you go back and look at LSU. They've historically been one of the better defensive teams around, especially on their front line. That 2019 team, they averaged giving up about 20 points a game, 21 points a game, which was, really unheard of. And I think in this millennium, we've had 10 different schools in the SEC lead the nation in scoring defense. So you think about that, and that was a Twitter something I saw on Twitter put out last week. 10 different schools in the SEC, and most of the time, that is those numbers are 10, 11, 12 points a game when you take a look at it. And that is hard to believe someone can hold somebody in this day and age to that few points, but it happens. But I mean, Georgia last year was holding people, and the reason why I think some people are saying, okay, that it's going to be tough. And Mark Hamm made a good point about Stetson Bennett. And Rowan Harper is going to be joining us in a moment from the SEC Network, and I'm anxious to hear his thoughts on it. And Roman is on here with us now. And listen, you drive down I-65, you cannot help but notice Prattville, Alabama, and that's where our next guest, who's on here with us right now, Roman Harper's from Prattville, and they've kicked some ass in football over the years, folks. I mean, that is a powerhouse program. Roman went on. Played for Alabama 01 to 05, played for the New Orleans Saints and the Carolina Panthers, and now he's on the SEC Network. And Roman, again, thank you for taking time out of your Monday morning to join us on Sidelines. And I met you at SEC Media Days. You're a truth broker, man. And when you and Takeo Spikes are on there, it's going to be a lot of fun because everybody else just get a notepad out and take notes. But if I twist your arm, will you talk some college football with us?
I'm all about it, man. Come on, man. You can't give me a great intro like that talking about Prattville and not get me fired up. I think I'm not going to talk about it.
Hey, well, look, man, this is great to have you on here. I know that how busy you are, and you do a lot to promote the game. But what I love the most, and they're so excited, and we're all so excited to have you on the show. You really get football, and you're honest. I mean, there are people that you ask them a question, they'll just hem-haw around. You tell it like it is, why this team is struggling. I was talking to the biggest Alabama fan, I think, on the planet last night for about 3 hours. We were talking about you being on the show, and, he and his family have been supporting Alabama for decades. And I said, he said the same thing. He said, Roman, you say, why is this team struggling? He'll tell you, and he'll make it to where you can understand it. But how excited are you getting to go to work every day on the SEC Network, talk about the game that you work so hard to be successful in, and you seem to me like you're equally as happy giving back.
Well, I am. It's I was so blessed and fortunate for so long to play a game called football, and it was my job, and it never felt like work because I loved it. I really enjoyed going to work every day and just competing against the best in the world and at the highest level. So that was what I always enjoyed doing. It never felt like work. And now that I'm doing SEC Network, it's very similar feelings, a lot of similar feelings that I get to enjoy this thing. I don't really call it work. I get to sit up and talk about football, and the biggest study I have to do is just watching football all the time and breaking down film and looking at different players and their weaknesses of offenses, defenses, things like that. And my eyes don't lie to me. I've seen so much good ball over the years in my own eyes through my own, skills and abilities out there playing for so long. So I just translate that over, and it's just real simple to me. College football is so slow compared to the NFL. So slow.
Yeah.
So when you see certain things, and when I watch football, everybody's amazed when I tell them. Like, I remember telling my neighbor one time, I was like, you should just go to a football game and don't watch the ball. He's like, what? How do you know what's going on? I'm like, well, if you know what you're looking at, which I do as a safety for so long, that everything else around you tells you where the ball is going to go. It's like when the offense breaks the huddle every time, they're telling you a story. You just got to learn how to read the book. So when they motion here, they shift here, this, it's all setting up one thing or the other, because offenses, they all show tendencies and things like that. So whenever I'm asked certain questions, I just really just shoot them straight up. And I've learned over time that as long as I'm honest and fair, like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not my fault that they stink. Like, that's not my problem. That's not me. Like, I'm just telling you what the issue is and how you can fix that issue and what the real big picture is. Like, everybody wants to think it's this player, it's that coach, and it's that, and it's just fix this. And I'm like, really, ball is what it is. You can't turn the football over. You got to be good on third down. You got to score touchdowns in the red zone. Like, these are the things that win at the highest level. And if you do those things where talent is not big of a separator, then that's what wins football. And that does not fall far from the tree all the way down to high school.
Yeah. We had Ben Troop on the show with us last Monday, former Florida Gator, and played for the Patriots, played 5 years in the NFL. And he said, the NFL is not a contact league. It is a collision league. And I can tell you something, man, you've taken great care of yourself. You're a workout fanatic, and I mean, I love it. You got to be physically fit, mentally alert, morally straight. But you approach what, just because you're not playing football anymore doesn't mean you're not taking care of yourself. And mentally, it looks to me, I don't know if you have a law degree or not, but you're very similar to a great trial lawyer going up, before a judge. Whenever you are asked questions, I watch you on SEC Network and I watch the other hosts. You get it. I mean, you can take all that complex minutia and put it in the vernacular. And that means that your brain is able to slow down what we as fans think is going really fast. It's like Takeo Spikes was asked, why is Will Anderson Jr. such a badass on the defensive line? He said, listen, when he comes up to the line of scrimmage, he sees stuff that most humans do not see. He'll see 2 or 3 mismatches to where he can get to the quarterback. He may not sack the quarterback, but he may also take out that whole side of the field, which alters their play. They want to go to the strong side, but now they got to go to their weak side. That alters the game. And I love when the two of you all, I hope that they carve out Takeo and Roman about football, because you make it simple. I think Jethro Bodine could understand it, because you're able to take it away because you're smart, and you're very, very smart. Your football, very, very savvy, very smart, but it's complicated to people. So explain real quick before we go to Jimmy, what it's like as a defensive player in today's college offenses. And I can't imagine what the pros are like, but let's just take a look at the college when you're facing, say, Alabama, or you're facing Georgia with the talent they have.
Well, the biggest thing is so many teams are putting you more in space, that, an athlete out in space away from other athletes and just play one-on-one football, right?
Yeah.
That is what their game is going to, and it's more spread. Now, the RPO game in college changes it, because offensive linemen are able to go down the field 3 or 4 yards. Where I'm in the NFL, if an offensive lineman goes down the field, it's run, and I'm getting there now because I want to try and eat up as much space as I can between myself and the running back that I got to get down. Space is not your friend when you are defense. It's not a friend. You want to try and put them in a cage and be able to allow yourself to get one-on-one tackles, and then the rest of your guys are running to help you. So that's one big difference. The biggest difference, like I said, is the RPO game, which is a run play action offense. So run pass option. So they call a play, and you can do both of them just depending on what the quarterback sees. If a linebacker steps up, throws it behind him, those type of deals. So all these teams are starting to use this more and more. But at the end of the day, the thing that I don't like that most teams don't do is they don't hit enough receivers at the line of scrimmage to disrupt timing. too many free releases in college where, you know, a lot of teams, they play off a lot more. Alabama does not. It's a couple teams that they always press. They're always trying to get hands on guys because you could take advantage of that because that's not a penalty in college football. There is no illegal contact. So you got to take advantage of those rules more than college football than what they do. And also, I don't, you know, you see this one defense that everybody thinks works against Mississippi State. It's the most annoying thing ever. It's just this drop 8, rush 3, because everybody thought it worked well early against Mississippi State in this offense. Well, Will Rogers is eating it up right now. I'm telling you, he will have another fantastic year because of that defense that's going to continue to get played versus Mississippi State. What teams and defensive coordinators do not understand that the two most important things to play great defense is when it comes to affecting the quarterback, you must affect the quarterback with rush and coverage in that order. You cannot allow a quarterback to sit back there and get comfortable and now read your defenses, go through them. And Will Rogers has amazing eyes moving defenders in zone coverage and throwing it where he wants to. So those are just a couple little encapsulated thoughts on my defense of college.
Man, and I just have nightmares November 13th at Jordan-Hare, Auburn rushing 3, but I digress. Jimmy, yeah, you know.
That's what happened last year. So that's exactly what happened with Auburn. Yeah. They're only rushing 3, and then all of a sudden Will Rogers gets hot. Auburn's defense is tired. Their offense doesn't stay on the field. Next, you know, they score like 20-something, 30 straight points and win the game.
It was horrible. Jimmy, jump in here. I'm still having time with my therapist on that one.
Well, also the Arkansas 3-2-6 alignment isn't very effective against the running game as we saw at Georgia last year, having only 5 guys in the box, and Georgia just ate it up and really established control of the game early. But Roman, I got to tell you, in my mind, your most famous play that will stick in my mind forever at Alabama was, of course, you'll know it as soon as I mention it, the Tennessee game. 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, 2005. Scores tied at 3-all. Tennessee calls just a brilliantly executed screen pass, and I'm sitting in the northwest corner of the end zone there. I don't see an Alabama player anywhere, and it's Corey Anderson, I believe. I think this guy's just going to cruise into the end zone. And then you just come out of nowhere and just blast him at about the 2-yard line. The ball goes flying out. It bounces out of the end zone. Bama gets the ball back on the 3rd and 9 play. DJ Hall catches the jump ball pass for like the 45-yard gain to get close, and Christensen hits a field goal. But when did you notice Anderson had the ball? And I'm still trying to wonder where on earth you came from. When did you notice that he had the ball and that, man, you had to get there in a hurry?
Well, it was just a screen pass. They had ran it on us earlier, and I guess they had some success on it. I'm not guessing. I know they had success on it. And I was in middle of field safety, so I was just trying not to get too deep in the end zone, read my keys, and then I saw the screen pass. And it kind of parted like the Red Sea, and I'm just like, I'm just running over there. Like at this point, I'm just trying to beat him to the end zone. And I just closed my eyes and just threw my body at him because he was way bigger than me. So, and actually, when I heard the crowd go crazy, I actually thought he ran me over and scored because that was in Tennessee section. Because Tennessee's fans were like right there in that corner of the end zone. So
on the opposite side.
Yeah. Right. So I actually thought they scored. And so I got up, and then when I was getting up, I saw all my teammates celebrating and run it off. So I did the same. And then I get to the sideline, and I asked Anthony Madison, I'm like, dude, what happened? He's like, man, somebody knocked the ball out. I was like, who knocked it out? I thought it was somebody else. And, and then we looked at the Jumbotron. He's literally right to the left of me, and he was just like, dude, you knocked it out. I was like, I did that. And then I said a couple of explicitives. And and then after that, I was like, he's like, man, that's going to be like a Daniel Moore pain. That's like a big-time play. I was like,
Roman, hold those thoughts, Roman. We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back. I want you to talk about that. That's awesome. Be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, Go off the 4 City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
I tell you what, Roman, I was talking to my wife during the break, my producer, and I said, he hit the Tennessee player so hard you didn't know what had happened. And that's a cool story. But Daniel Moore, if you're in a Daniel Moore painting, it's going to be hanging up for eternity. But carry on. Great stuff before the break.
Yeah. So, like I said, I was middle of the field safety. Corey came through. I can't say his name like I know him like that. So, the fullback came through. I hit him. I closed my eyes. I actually heard the crowd go crazy. I thought it was Tennessee fans like going crazy. I thought he ran me over. Like I said, we get to the sidelines after celebrating my teammates and see the Jumbotron play. It was crazy because, that season was so wild. We had been so bad for so long, and all of a sudden to come back and be undefeated and winning those games the way we were. And Jamie Christensen, aka Money, putting another one through the uprights, which I look back, like Jamie really didn't make a lot of field goals besides the one we had to have. It was like always on time. Never needed him to do anything great except for when we needed him. So it's just a special year, man. To go through the probation, all the different coaching situations, and then to have a great senior year the way we did. It kind of just finished out perfect for us.
And
with that being said, Roman, how huge was the pro throw injury? Because what made it even so just even sadder was the fact that, in my opinion, I was also at that game when, of course, he caught the 80-yard bomb on the first play from Brody, and it just set the tone for the game. And it was Urban Meyer's first road game in the SEC. I'll remember that. And I also remembered until they did the stadium renovation, they completed it around maybe 2010. That first half was the loudest I think I'd ever heard Bryant Denny. I mean, it was just crazy in there. We never let him breathe and just took over. But what made it so unfortunate, though, was I just didn't think any of the starters should have been in the game. You got about 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Bama's up 31-3. And I'll never forget, it was like a 3rd and 3. It was maybe at the Florida 31. And I'm saying to myself, this is the perfect situation to allow Christensen to try a long field goal in an SEC game situation. And instead we go for it. And then when we threw deep, I was even more stunned. And then we all saw what happened. And when I saw the trainer give that crossed arm signal, that's one of the worst feelings I've ever experienced, at a football game, and certainly at Bryant Denny.
It was sad. The Proto situation just stinks. Hindsight's always 20/20, so we always look back at it, and just say like, "Oh, coulda, shoulda, woulda." And also, our offense took such a big decline after he got hurt. It went way downhill.
Yeah.
I look at this Alabama teams now, and I'm like, man, I wish our offense would have scored 21 points a game. Like, I'm not even asking for 30.
Yeah.
It's like 20.
Yeah.
Right.
If we would have had that, we'd have been so much better. Just because we defensively were really good, like really, really good. We didn't play a lot of different things. We just knew what we were doing, and we had some really good players, unselfish guys who were willing to sacrifice for the betterment of all. And it was really unique to be there at those times. We weren't rotating a whole bunch of guys on the front. We weren't rotating guys around everybody else. We all just played our butts off. So it was unfortunate that Proto had a career-ending injury the way he did. He's on and doing some good things now, coaching and giving back the best way he can.
Good.
And but he will always have a story, and he'll always have a legacy because of that, though. That and the way he caught that pass on dude's head until against Southern Miss. So, but that's who Pro Throw always was, though. He was always had really strong hands, played like it had the mindset of a running back, but played wide receiver, and very dynamic player for the time being there. I just wish you'd been able to stay healthy because there's no telling how good our team could have been in 2005.
Roman,
After the game, Urban said in his press conference that at the time he said Prothero was the best player in the SEC.
Yeah,
he probably wasn't far off at the time. He was, I mean, he was dynamic. He punt return, we handed off to him. Another what people don't remember is we played South Carolina, I think, before that too.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh, Prothero put on a masterpiece that game.
Yeah,
everybody remembers the Florida game, but South Carolina game, he really came into his own too.
And Roman, when you along the line, I think Tyrone Prothero was from Heflin, Alabama.
Yes.
In state this year, man, there's 22 4-stars, half a dozen 5-stars. The state of Alabama, Jason Caldwell's on with us every week for Inside the Auburn Tigers. He said it's where the state of Georgia was 10 years ago. There's so much great talent. It's so important.
They got that many 5-stars in the state of Alabama?
6 this year, yeah. And it's an incredible year. So you look now. Are you living in Charlotte, or I mean, because I know. No,
I live in Charlotte.
Okay. So yeah, because you played for the Panthers, but it's great having you on there with. I'm interested to watch with you and Takeo Spikes. Nothing against the other guys, but y'all two defensively have like computer brains. You're able to diagnose what's happening. Talk to the fans out there about, now we know the speed of the pro game, as Ben Troop says, it's a collision league. In the college level, it's also it's physical. We had Steve Shaw on the show last week, coordinator of NCAA officials. They're doing everything they can for safety, but talk about it. If you were a coach, how would you be coaching your defensive players to hit? Because think about when Herschel and Bo and Marcus Dupree were playing, man, they lowered their head. I mean, it was, the respirators on, the priest is in the room, and they're calling the kin folks to the bedside. You're about to get hit by a steamroller. Today, when the defensive player mimics what the offensive player is doing, he's almost always the one being called for targeting.
Yes. I hate the targeting rule. Number one, in no other league or no other sport is the amateur punished more than the professional. All right. It's the same penalty, but in an amateur way, with the amateurs, we throw them out of the game. The pros, we just move 15 yards and keep it moving. So I think that rule needs to change. Mm-hmm. Right. You should give them 2 targetings or change it. It's whatever. Like, it's not, the intent and the behavior has changed. That was what the rule was implemented for. And that has changed. It's taken it out of the game. Now it's all like, oh man, I didn't mean to do that. Right. You never see guys just maliciously try and target people. That just doesn't happen anymore. So you have changed the behavior. So what you did worked. Now let's modify it and make it better for everybody. Nobody wants to see a young man getting kicked out of a game or missing the first half of a second game for a bang bang play. All right. Mm-hmm. It's unfair. That's number one about the targeting. Now, the original question of how would I coach it? If I was a defensive back coach or anything else, I would do it the same way I was taught, or what I learned over time is that you break a person into a quarter. So it's 4 different quarters. You split that person up even vertically and horizontally. You split them up in quarters. So that's 4 different sides. And so those are my target areas. So anytime if I'm ever to quarter somebody on the upper half on a rising blow, that means I'm going low to high, all right? And I shoulder him or quarter him, he is going to go down. I'm taking a fourth of him off. Now, bigger guys who I need to quarter on the bottom half because they can't run without their pegs. So you take one of them out on that bottom quarter of or quadrant, and then next thing you know, they're going down. You're taking one of those legs with them. That is where their aiming points need to be. Not so much as down the middle or in the middle part or their head. That's danger zone. That's no strike zone. So you got to stay away from that, because I remember when the rule was implemented in my second or third year, they started implementing the targeting rule. So they came in, they talked about strike zones, where to try and hit these guys at. From there, we adjusted the game. That's what pros do. We adjust. So that is what I came up with my own player position, and I did it and never got targeting penalties on me. So it's a way to do it. It's a way to hit guys full speed. You just got to know how to do it. And I don't think enough coaches know how to coach it up. I mean, half of them because they've never done it before. But because I've done it, I have a unique perspective on it that I know how to do it, and I can show you how to do it.
Yeah, good friend of our show, Frank Duffy Realty over in Atlanta, is on with us a lot. He's a big LSU fan. He just texted me, and he'll be on tomorrow. He's at Saints practice down in New Orleans or Metairie. Kind of talk about how nice and cool, and about 65 degrees, no humidity. Isn't it a nice day? Nice practices, huh?
Yeah, right. I haven't seen it that cold since like last winter.
Exactly. I just had to get that in on.
I love going down there. I love going down to New Orleans. The fans are amazing. The fans are amazing. You know, they're LSU and New Orleans Saints fans. So I have this great love-hate relationship with all of them. And it's a beautiful thing. I miss them. But it's a great organization. I expect big things out of this team this year. I think their defense is going to be lights out. They bring in another talented receiver like Chris Olave. The Pennington kid, the offensive lineman, is big and athletic. So they like the pieces that they have around it. It's going to be all about the quarterback. Can Jameis Winston perform at a high level and not turn the football over? As long as he takes care of the football, this team's going to have a chance to be really good. They got all the other pieces. They got to figure out the Alvin Kamara situation, how much he's going to be suspended or what they're going to do with that final thing. But other than that, I really like the positioning of the New Orleans Saints. Of course, they got Tampa Bay, but the thing that nobody talks about is that the Saints beat Tampa Bay all the time. Like Tom Brady, they're not afraid of him. They beat Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I don't think Tom has really beaten them since he's come to Tampa Bay. So the last time I think Tom Brady beat the Saints is in 2013, my last year with the Saints. So very intriguing times, but we'll see how the NFC South plays out.
Yeah.
Was Sean Payton not the perfect coach for the Saints? And what was it like to play for him? And do you think he will be the Cowboys coach next year?
All right. I'll go in order. I think he was. At the time, he was young. He was kind of bullheaded, and he's learned. He got so much better by the time he was done as a head coach. And he was aggressive. We won a lot. We were really big on competing versus each other, and it made the best out of everybody. We had a lot of young, talented players from all across the board, all walks of life. And so that franchise was built on the backs of us, and it was amazing to see. It was amazing to be a part of just where when I first got there, nobody wanted to come to the Saints as free agent. And now it's like a destination. Like people want to come play for the Saints and be in the Superdome and be a part of that organization. And it's amazing to say that I was part of what helped rebuild that whole thing and make it to where it is today. And I'm still great friends with everybody inside that building in that organization, and lifelong friends. Even my family, the way they treat my family, my wife, my kids, my mom, my dad, because they went to all the games. It's really good to be a part of a special place like that. Secondly, it was what was the other question?
Will Sean Payton be the Cowboys coach?
Yeah, that was the third question, and I would say no. I would also be very aware. I think McCarthy's going to end up staying in Dallas. I think they'll have enough success where they don't get rid of him and it kind of misses out on the boat. I would say just be careful, though. Sean's going to want to go to a team that has a really good quarterback. And if I'm hearing the Chargers, that could be an option. That's all I'm saying.
Well, you look at these, and then you went to Carolina with the Panthers.
And it's also L.A., and Sean likes the bright lights. He likes that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And SoFi Stadium's a pretty good place to play.
Yeah.
I heard. I've never been.
Got a nice roof on it. And you know what, Roman, we had Dr. Andrews on, the great orthopedic surgeon, and he's Auburn and now Alabama's team doctor. He and the Andrews Orthopedic Group. He talked about something. Jimmy and I had him on several times this year about the injuries. Last year, John Mechie hurt on the turf there, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Jamison Williams hurt on a non-contact injury in the national championship game. And then was it Odell Beckham Jr. hurt?
Yep.
He was at he was at all three of those games, Roman. How much, and he's not a fan of that sprint turf, whatever like that. And we're talking about being safe about concussions and the targeting rule. Well, what about that turf, that sprint turf? Yeah, it saves money on cutting the grass and watering it and stuff like that. but how many careers is it ending or cutting short?
You know, it's weird because I tore mine on the same type of deal in New Orleans my rookie year. I like natural grass. After playing in Carolina for all those years, for 2 years, I like being on natural grass. It does feel better on your knees. But these places are indoors. They're not going to do it that way. Arizona Cardinals is the only place that has outdoor. Well, I don't know if Houston changed theirs. Houston did it for a second, but the Cardinals, they cook their grass outside and then they roll it into the stadium. So it's a unique little thing, but it's really cool to see it. And it comes in on trays. But I would prefer that. I like natural grass, but not everybody's doing it. And like you said, that's what teams are going to. And it also allows them to put soccer out there and other fields and do other things. And I don't have to worry about covering it up when we want to put, some performance or a concert comes to town too. So it's easier to take care of overall. And it's just unfortunate that everybody has these injuries. But I mean, Dr. Andrews did 2 of my knee surgeries. So, I mean, it's obviously paying the bills too. He ain't that mad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
he said that he wanted it eliminated.
Yeah.
When we talked to him about the field grass turf. But again, just like what you said, it's very well equipped for high traffic. And I know when I lived in Texas, and you know how big high school football is, most of those large, even high school stadiums had the artificial turf. It was old fashioned. Now they have the field turf, but it handles heavy traffic because on Saturdays they start playing youth soccer like at 8 a.m. And then around 2:00 they start with youth football. And those fields are in use from 8 a.m. till 12 midnight. And it just handles, high volume traffic.
That's the biggest thing about it. You got to be able to handle all the feet on there. And I don't think another thing that they should maybe look into is that they don't refill the turf enough with enough sand and recycled tires. Like they should do that more often throughout the year. And that will help with some of those things. I know the track on the indoor surface at the New Orleans complex in Metairie is a different turf or different feel. Like the composition between sand and recycled tires is different than the one on the game day.
Yeah.
They want the one on game to be a little bit faster. The one in practice is a little bit softer, more giving, and is better on your knees long term than the one that you play on the game in. So, but it's also a slower track. Yeah. So it just depends, and you get to decide all that. But it has to be some kind of. I just wish it was a perfect formula, but it's not, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, if we can do this, we one more question. We got a quick break. I want to ask you one more question before we go, because it's from a New Orleans Saints fan, a listener, that is Cajun Man. He calls himself, down in New Orleans. He has one question we're going to ask you after the break. But I tell you one thing, hearing you say what you said about grass versus the turf, and my wife said, you mean they're actually more concerned about saving money on cutting grass than they are player safety? And I'm like, yeah, we'll talk about that real quick. One more question after the break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-City exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
I'm back here with you. One more thing. Roman, this is Cajun Man down in New Orleans, said to tell you who dat, and thanks so much for the Lombardi Trophy. The people of Louisiana, New Orleans, Saints fans everywhere are forever grateful to you. And we want to say this. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday morning to join us. We want to get you back on soon. This has been absolutely fantastic. Tell people what you do out there, how they can follow you, and if there's something that you want people to support that you care about, let them know, and we'll let you go because I know you got a big day ahead of you.
Oh man, thank you guys for having me. I mean, I'm just on normal social media stuff. Harp41 on Instagram and Harp_41 on Twitter. So actually, I think it's opposite, but either way,
Okay.
Just look me up.
Okay.
I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm usually just taking care of the fam and just hanging out. So you guys have a great day. Thank you guys for having me and appreciate it as always.
Look forward to the next visit, and thank you so much for what you do for college football. Roman Harper been with us from the SEC Network and talked about his time with the Saints, the Panthers, and everything else in between. Fantastic stuff. And now we are joined by Brad Logan, the Logan Media Network. And Brad, look, man, thank you so much. Trying to get this pinned down the right timing this morning. I appreciate your patience. Always love having you on. Again, you show up prepared. Logan Media Network covering Ole Miss, but you know a lot about what's going on all over Mississippi and Starkville and Hattiesburg. But let's talk about your thoughts from the early practices. Not a whole lot to take away from, but if anybody can find something, you can, about Ole Miss and the race in the SEC West to try to unseat Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's talking about the quarterback battle. And quite frankly, you know, when Jackson Dart was sitting back, hasn't committed anywhere, the transfer out of USC, Luke Altmaier didn't go to the coaching staff. He didn't cry on social media. What Luke Altmaier did was go to work. And he went to the weight room. He went to the practice field. And Luke Altmaier is doing a phenomenal job in the preseason camp. And I think, honestly, Rob, I think he's leading this team at quarterback. And if you see him start on the opening game against Troy in September, it will not be because of any reason other than he earned the position. And it should not be a surprise to Ole Miss fans if Luke Altmaier starts the game because he's played incredibly well. He knows the offense inside and out. He knows that offensive line is senior laden. It's got a ton of experience, and he's playing really well right now, leading this team. Now, that's not to take anything away from what Jackson Dart has done. Dart's got a phenomenal arm, got a lot of arm strength, moves really well, not quite as well as Matt Corral did, but moves really well. Luke Altmaier just had a really good fall camp, and I think right now he's leading this team without question.
You know, you look at the quarterback battle. You know, Luke Altmaier, Ole Miss identified him a long time ago out of Starkville. You bring in Jackson Dart. I'm just one of these people that likes competition in every room, quarterback, running back, defensive backs everywhere. It makes everybody better. We had David Cutcliffe on the show with us Friday. He had a great quote. He said, I always told my starters, you boys better be practicing as hard as the backups. And that seems like what Lane Kiffin does. He doesn't want anyone getting too comfortable in whatever position they're in, does he?
No, and I mean, that absolutely goes across the board because you look at the wide receiver position, and that's easily the most volatile position as far as I'm concerned for this Ole Miss football team, the 2022 season, because you lose Dontario Drummond, you lose Braylon Sanders, you lose Elijah Moore, you lose so many receivers to Shakur Pearson. Those guys aren't coming back. And so all of a sudden you look to, you know, sophomores and juniors like Braylon Buckhalter. You look for Braylon Brown. You're looking for some of the younger players that you signed that, quite frankly, have not stepped up. So what does Lane Kiffin do? He goes to the transfer portal. He goes for a Jalen Knox out of Missouri. He gets a transfer, Jordan Watkins out of Louisville. And, you know, I think, if anything, those are some of the players that are going to have to step up. You do have seniors. And, you know, you got Jonathan Mingo, who's a junior who was hampered with injury last year, who's 100%, it appears. You've got a transfer in Malik Heath that's coming in from Mississippi State that's got a ton of experience in Starkville. It's been a pretty good receiver. The problem is you've got so many of these players. Of course, you got Dennis Jackson, who's kind of been a hot and cold receiver for Ole Miss. The problem when you get all these transfers in the room, how are they going to gel? And I haven't seen that cohesive gelling from the receivers so far. You know, we've been able to go to every practice on campus. What I have seen is an absolute gelling of Mason Brooks, who's really been a stalwart at right tackle, going to anchor that position as Nick Broker has come down to right guard. You've got Jeremy James anchoring the left side at left tackle. And then you've got left guard Eli Acker, who's played some center, who's played some tackle. Quite frankly, he's looked better than any of the offensive linemen so far. And then you've got to look for that number 6 and number 7 guy that hasn't really stepped up yet. It's going to be Jalen Cunningham. There are a couple of players that have the ability to do that, but haven't stepped up. The point I'm trying to make is the offensive line has done really well. They're coming together. They're playing well. Receivers, not so much. And there's been some people on our network at 247 that think that the receiving core may be one of the best in the conference, and that very well could be true. I haven't seen that from practice yet. I haven't seen Jordan Watkins make the kind of plays that he's going to have to make to be that type of receiver for Ole Miss. He dropped a lot of balls. Casey Kelly's running tight end number 1. Michael Trigg Jr., quite frankly, he's not a very good practice player. And we kind of knew that coming into the season. He's more of a when the lights come on type player. The same thing could be said for Zach Evans, the running back for Ole Miss, to transfer out of TCU. One running back that's looked incredible is Quinshon Judkins. And I don't know how in the world he got away from the clutches of Auburn or Alabama.
I agree.
You're going to hear his name possibly. You're going to hear his name possibly in the NFL one day.
Yeah.
I mean, he's that type of player. Zach Evans is talking about how Quinshon Judkins is turning heads in fall practice. And so that's kind of a quick overview of the offense. And, you know, there's some question marks, but this is an offense that lost 85% of its production on offense last year, 100% of its running back production. That's including quarterback Matt Corral. It's including running back Snoop Connor, who looked really good in the Hall of Fame game the other day on the NFL Network. And it's also including, of course, Jerrion Ely and then Henry Parrish Jr., who transferred to Miami. So you lose all that production, but you've got all these running backs coming in, including the transfer from SMU, Ulysses Bentley, the 4. So it's a loaded running back room. It's a loaded offensive line. The question is, of course, a quarterback and wide receiver, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, that's great take on it. And Diggs, the tight end is from, I think, Tampa. And Franz Beard was on the show with talking about him, GatorbaitMedia.com. He saw him score 42 points, Michael Trigg, in a basketball game. So he's a hell of an athlete, but you just wonder, you like to see those guys practice because you're going to play like you practice typically, but not always, but that's typically the case. But that is a great takeaway, great insight, Brad. Jimmy, I know you got some questions for Brad Logan of Logan Media Network.
Well, when you talk about Lane Kiffin teams, most people always focus on offense, but from what I'm hearing, the talent level on the defensive side of the ball is far and away the best they've had since he's been in Oxford. And we know last year it took half a season for the defense to gel. And then once they were all, able to start, showing some success, they improved immensely. But I'm hearing that this defense really has the potential to be pretty good.
Yeah, and I think, Jimmy, looking at the defense, it all starts up front. I know that's coach speech, that you win and lose on the line of scrimmage, and I think there's a lot of truth to that, but I think it's thrown out there a lot. But I'll be honest with you, you can't get away from saying that from this Ole Miss team this year, because Ole Miss has never, and I repeat, never had depth on the defensive line. And they do have depth this year. Quite honestly, Jimmy, 10 or 11 deep. And now you don't have the Sam Williams coming off the defensive edge like you do last year, but you do have some pretty, stable talent at defensive end and defensive tackle. You've got Katie Hill coming back. You've got Cedric Johnson that had a really good freshman season. I think he's going to be someone that you're going to hear a lot about. So the good news is that they do have a ton of depth at the defensive front. Secondly, one of the better defensive backfields that this defense has had in, probably 10, 15 years. And it's just they're going to have a lot of bodies, and that's something they haven't had in the past. They've had a couple of good corners and maybe a couple of buck linebackers, but they haven't had the depth that they've got like they have in the defensive backfield. AJ Finley, Prince coming back at cornerback. They've got so many bodies that they can throw out there. And in fact, it's very, very crowded. We expect Daniels, the the talented sophomore out of George County High School in Mississippi to be able to, MJ Daniels, to play big. You know, he played wide receiver in high school, but he's done really well in the defensive backfield. And some of those guys are going to be on special teams as well. So depth is a huge deal. Chris Parks was the co-defensive coordinator last year. Called a really good spring game, I thought. I thought he was much more upfront than he had been in the past. Obviously, he had to, because DJ Durkin headed off to Texas A&M. So, you know, he has to be more of a vocal leader. Randall Joyner is not, quote unquote, the title of the co-defensive coordinator, but he's a very vocal leader as well. Hell of a recruiter from the Northeast. Davis Igbinosun, the number one player out of New Jersey, is I'm not going to say he's going to start for Ole Miss early on in the year, but I do think by the latter half of the year, he'll be one of the lockdown corners for this team. He's that good. And he's getting a lot of praise by some of the linebackers we heard from Austin Keys, linebacker, along with Asante Sistrunk. Linebacker is a position that I think they just don't have any depth at all, which the good news is they've got so many cornerbacks. Jimmy, you know defenses in college well enough. If you don't have enough linebackers, just walk a defensive back up and call him a linebacker. I mean, there are no more Lawrence Taylors anymore. There are no Bosworths anymore that are 6'4", 280 playing linebacker and run like the wind. They're all much shorter. They're all much leaner, and they're a lot faster than they used to be. So I think you just walk a DB up and call him a rover and be done with it. You put a couple, maybe you get you a middle linebacker or an outside linebacker and call it a day. There are more problems I think you need to have if you don't have enough linebackers. They've got enough depth in the defensive front and, of course, the defensive backfield to kind of shade some of those deficiencies. And who's to say that they had a transfer that comes in and maybe shines that we don't know about, like a Brandon Mack, someone that hasn't played a ton, Damon Clowney that he put his hand in the ground if he needs to or stand up. Those things will kind of wash themselves out. But the defense is going to be, if anything, better because of the depth that they have.
You know what, Brad? I was watching the 82 Iron Bowl last night, and Frank Broyles, Keith Jackson can't get any better. They're talking about Eddie Lowe, the younger brother of Woodrow Lowe. This was in 1982. Eddie Lowe was 5'11", 190 pounds. And Frank Broyles said, you know, he's not that big, but he goes, the number one thing about linebackers is instinct. And that you're right. And that's, remember the rover or the bandit position that Florida and Georgia had? Guys like Scott Warner, we remember, Terry Hogue. And that right there, you just nailed it. I mean, yeah, you don't have great linebackers. Where's the Takeo Spikes out there? Where's D'Amico Ryans even? Okay. Where is Eddie Strong? You just don't see a 230 pound, 250 pound linebacker. You think about Dante Hightower at Alabama. I mean, now, golly, 210. We're going back because you've got to be able to keep up with the offensive players, because they do, as Roman Harper said in the previous segment, that everybody's trying to put you in space and create a mismatch.
Yeah, there's no doubt, and I like what Chris Partridge is doing, and mainly being. I can't stress this enough. He's much more vocal than he was last year. And look, we had an opportunity to go to every single practice. You know, knock on wood, we're able to do that. I don't know many other programs across the SEC or the country that's allowed to go. The media is open to all of the practices. So we've been able to really see some of the younger players grow. And I think with growth comes coaching staff growth as well. And we've seen Chris Partridge become a big-time vocal leader across that defense. Now, look, I would be remiss if I didn't say there was a cause of concern for linebacker because, you know, the numbers, while they're not there, they only have 3 or 4 that have really shined in practice. So, obviously, there is a bit of a concern, but I think as well as that defense is playing, it's specifically across the defensive front and the defensive backfield, and I think that's one reason that the wide receivers have not looked great is because of the play of the defensive backs and a lot of the pressure that the defensive line is putting on the quarterbacks. Haven't seen them in anything other than helmet and shoulder pads. Hopefully see them in full pads soon, so we'll learn a lot more there. But, you know, anytime in preseason camp, both of you guys know this, that it's always either, boy, our defense is playing great, that's why our offense is not playing bad. You can pull a lot of coach speaks from that, but I think anyone that can disseminate what the difference between offense and defense can see that legitimately the defensive backs are playing well, which is a hindrance to the wide receivers. What we've seen is just in basically scales, we've seen receivers just drop passes.
Yeah.
And so that's something that you have to eradicate soon.
Yeah. Brad, look, I mean, we're running up about out of time, but great stuff. And it's so refreshing to hear somebody being able to go to a real practice. I mean, my head's kind of spinning, and it's a kind of a Captain Obvious moment, but you don't see it. If I'm a coach, I'm inviting people to come to practices. It's not what you're doing, it's when you do it on game day. It's not about mismatches, it's how you match up on game day. Tell people how they can follow all the great work and content that you're putting out, because it just seems to get better every day.
Well, it's getting bigger for sure. We contracted through 247 Sports and Inside the Rebels, and then maybe doing a little more things nationally with 247 Sports. Excited about some big news coming with WJTV and their sports department for the upcoming season.
Yeah.
And also we're starting a Twitter space at the end of each Ole Miss football game. More information is coming with that in regards to our sponsorships and also our partnerships with some other media organizations. So the Believe in Ole Miss podcast is still wide open. That's a part of the Believe Network. That drops twice a week. And we appreciate everyone following along at Brad Logan, COTE on Twitter.
Hey,
and, of course, Brad Logan Media on Facebook.
All right. Listen, we really appreciate your time, as always, on this show. Great report on Ole Miss and great insight. And Ole Miss Rebel fans, you heard it. They got some depth on that defensive front, 10 or 11 guys. When you can say you've got that, you have a chance to win every game that you play, especially with an offensive mind like Lane Kiffin as your head coach. Look, we'll be back tomorrow. We've got a great show lined up. Appreciate all the great stuff. Jimmy, great questions. Great stuff from Brad and Roman and Mark Hamm and Jordan Hill. We are here every Monday through Saturday, folks. 8 to 10 a.m. Central, 9 to 11 a.m. east of the Chattahoochee. Check us out, 680thefan.com, the podcast park in Atlanta. And remember, follow us on Twitter. Very important. Follow us on Twitter at Sidelines_live. You follow us, we follow you. We appreciate your support, and we'll be back tomorrow. Remember, go out and help somebody with the expectation of nothing in return. Don't give to get, just give to give. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. And folks, college football season is here. It's really, really close. We are 17 days away from the start. So you break that down, 408 hours maybe from the start. So till then, have a great day, everybody. We are out of here.